You've probably tried to break a bad habit at least once in your life. Maybe it was biting your nails, doom scrolling at 2 a.m., procrastinating until the last minute, or constantly checking your phone even when you promised yourself you wouldn't. You tell yourself, "This time I'm done." But a few days later, you're right back where you started. And every time it happens, you wonder if there's something wrong with you, something weak, something undisciplined, something broken. But here's the truth. Your struggle was never about willpower. It was never about being weak or lacking discipline. Your brain is literally designed to hold on to habits, especially the bad ones, and once you understand why, you finally get the power to override it. So let's start with a simple idea. Your brain's job is not to make you happy, it's to make you efficient. Your brain wants to save energy, reduce thinking, and automate as much as possible. Every time you repeat a behavior, your brain takes notes. It asks, "Is this something I'll need to do again?" And if the answer seems to be yes, because you do it repeatedly, it stores that behavior in the basal ganglia, the part of your brain responsible for habit formation. Think of it like your brain's automation center. Once a habit enters this system, it becomes incredibly easy to repeat and incredibly difficult to break. Not because you want it, but because your brain wants to run on autopilot. And here's where the trap begins. Every habit, good or bad, follows the same loop. Cue, routine, reward. Something triggers your brain. You respond with an automatic action, and you get some kind of reward, sometimes emotional, sometimes chemical, sometimes both. Maybe the cue is stress. The routine is grabbing your phone. The reward is a tiny hit of dopamine from seeing notifications. Or the cue is boredom. The routine is opening the fridge. The reward is the momentary pleasure of a snack. Over time, the cue becomes glued to the routine. That's why breaking bad habits feels like fighting gravity. The entire loop hides beneath awareness, operating in the shadows. Most people try to break habits by attacking the routine directly. They try to stop drinking soda, stop procrastinating, stop scrolling, stop overeating. But when the cue still exists and the reward still exists, your brain eventually drags you right back. This is why willpower doesn't work. Willpower is like trying to hold back a river with your bare hands. You can resist for a moment, but eventually the water overpowers you. Real change happens when you target the loop, not the routine. The tricky part is how long habits take to replace. People love repeating that old myth. It takes 21 days to form a habit. But research paints a completely different picture. It can take 18 days, or it can take 254 days. Most people fall somewhere around 66. Your brain's pathways physically rewire themselves over time, and those pathways, once built, don't just disappear. Even years later, the old habit still exists like a dormant program. You can overwrite it, you can weaken it, but you can't erase it entirely. That's why people who used to smoke may suddenly crave a cigarette after years of quitting. It's not because they failed, it's because their brain remembers. To break the loop, you start with awareness. You identify the cue. You figure out what triggers the behavior. Most people skip this step, and that's why they stay stuck. Let's say you constantly binge-watch shows late at night. The cue might be loneliness. It might be stressful. It might be fatigue. It might be the moment you lie down in bed. Once you understand the cue, you can target it directly. You can change your environment, shift your routine, or prepare an alternative response. The key is replacing the routine, not eliminating it. Your brain still wants the reward, and if you take that reward away completely, your brain will fight back. Imagine your reward is relaxation. Instead of doom scrolling, you might switch to reading for 5 minutes. Instead of junk food, maybe a walk outside. Instead of procrastination, maybe starting a timer for just 1 minute. By keeping the reward intact, your brain doesn't feel punished. It feels redirected. And that small shift is enough to begin rewiring your neural pathways. But here's something most people never consider. Bad habits don't survive because you're weak. They survive because they work. They give you something: relief, escape, pleasure, comfort, control, stimulation. Your goal is not to destroy that need, it's to satisfy it in a healthier way. If you don't replace it, your brain will cling to whatever worked before. Another reason habits stick is dopamine. Dopamine isn't the chemical of pleasure, it's the chemical of expectation. It fires before the reward, not after. When your brain predicts a positive outcome, dopamine spikes. That's why just thinking about checking your phone gives you a little thrill. That's why anticipating junk food feels almost as good as eating it. That's why habits become emotional shortcuts. Your brain experiences cravings before the action even happens. This means that breaking a habit requires you to interrupt the prediction. You have to delay the reward long enough to retrain the expectation. And delaying doesn't mean denying. If you delay something for even 10 minutes, you change the chemistry of the craving. Cravings are like waves. They rise, peak, then fall. Most cravings last 90 seconds. People who understand this become masters of their own behavior. They allow the craving to come and go without acting on it. They surf the urge instead of drowning in it. So let's walk through a system that actually works. First, identify the cue. Write down the exact moment the behavior happens. What time of day? What emotional state? What location? What people are present? The clearer the cue, the easier the next step becomes. Second, replace the routine. Don't focus on stopping the habit. Focus on swapping it. If you always eat snacks after dinner, maybe swap them with tea. If you scroll your phone first thing in the morning, maybe place your phone across the room. If you procrastinate on work, maybe use a 1-minute action rule. It sounds small, almost too small, but your brain loves small. Third, keep the reward. If your reward from scrolling was dopamine from novelty, replace it with something stimulating but healthier, like learning something quick or reading a page of an interesting book. If the reward was comfort, replace it with a comfort ritual. Fourth, start small. Your brain resists massive change. It interprets big changes as threats. Small changes slip under the radar. Fifth, track consistency. Habits grow stronger through repetition, not intensity. A single skipped day won't ruin you. Missing multiple days resets momentum. Tracking keeps you accountable and turns your new habit into a chain you don't want to break. Now imagine someone who struggles with procrastination. Their cue might be feeling overwhelmed. Their routine is avoidance. Their reward is temporary relief. To break this loop, they don't need more discipline. They need a smaller entry point. Something like working for 1 minute, then stopping. This sounds too easy, almost silly, but it works because it changes the emotional association. The brain stops perceiving the task as a threat. Over time, 1 minute becomes 2, then 5, then 10. The key is making the habit so small you can't say no. Let's consider another example. Someone who wants to quit phone addiction. The cue might be boredom. The routine is picking up the phone. The reward is instant dopamine. In this case, the solution is not locking the phone in another room. Your brain will always find a way around extreme restrictions. The solution is creating friction. Move distracting apps off your home screen. Increase the number of steps needed to open them. Reduce notifications. Set phone-free zones like your bedroom or dining table. Each tiny barrier gives your brain time to interrupt the automatic behavior. Breaking bad habits also requires understanding emotional triggers. Many habits aren't physical, they're emotional coping mechanisms. Stress often leads to overeating. Loneliness leads to scrolling social media. Exhaustion leads to binge watching. Anxiety leads to fidgeting or nail biting. When the emotional cause remains untreated, the habit becomes a crutch. You're not fighting the habit, you're fighting the emotion behind it. The most powerful habit breakers are people who learn to sit with negative emotions without immediately seeking escape. When you stop running from the feeling, the habit loses its power. This brings us to self-identity. The strongest habits are identity-based. When someone says, "I'm trying to quit smoking," the identity is still tied to smoking. When someone says, "I'm not a smoker," the identity shifts. Your brain always works to stay consistent with your self-image. If your identity is, "I'm a person who exercises," working out becomes automatic. If your identity is, "I'm always late," your behavior will match it. Changing identity is slow, but powerful. Every small action becomes a vote for the person you want to become. And eventually, the identity becomes real. And now we get into something deeper: your environment. People underestimate how much their surroundings dictate their habits. If your phone is next to you, you'll use it. If junk food is in your kitchen, you'll eat it. If your bed is too comfortable, you'll snooze your alarms. Changing your environment is often more effective than changing your mind. Put your phone in another room. Remove snacks from your house. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Create a workspace that feels inviting. The environment shapes behavior effortlessly, without relying on willpower. Another mistake people make is attempting to break multiple habits at once. That drains mental energy and increases failure rates. Focus on one habit until it's stable, then move to the next. People who layer habits one at a time build long-term change. People who try to change everything at once burn out. Lasting transformation is slow. It's quiet. It looks boring. But it works. Now let's describe the moment change begins. It's when you stop expecting overnight results. Most people quit because progress feels invisible at first. Nothing seems different. The brain rewires in the background long before you notice change in the foreground. The reward of consistency is delayed, but it's worth it. Over time, the new habit becomes easier than the old one. That's when the magic happens. That's when you realize you're no longer forcing it, you're simply living it. To make all of this real, imagine you're someone who struggles with nighttime overeating. Your evenings are a mix of stress and boredom, and the kitchen becomes a place of comfort. You know it's a bad habit, but your brain associates it with relaxation. So instead of trying to quit cold turkey, you change the cue. Maybe you start brushing your teeth right after dinner. Nobody likes eating after brushing. Or you replace the routine. Instead of opening the fridge, you brew herbal tea. Or you keep the reward. After resisting the urge, you let yourself watch one episode of your favorite show guilt-free. Over a few weeks, the craving weakens, the loop breaks, and you never needed willpower. You needed strategy. And here's the part nobody talks about. The battle with a bad habit doesn't happen at the moment of action, it happens in the 5 seconds before it. That tiny gap, the pause between impulse and behavior, that is where your entire life actually changes. Most people don't even realize this gap exists because the habit loop fires so quickly. The cue appears, dopamine spikes, the body moves, and the mind follows afterward, rationalizing the behavior you've already done. But when you learn to widen that gap, even by one breath, 1 second of awareness, you disrupt the autopilot. That disruption is the key to transformation. Think about how many times you've acted before noticing what you were doing. You open your phone without remembering picking it up. You snack while watching a show, and suddenly the whole packet is empty. You say you'll exercise in 5 minutes, and suddenly it's midnight. None of this happens consciously. Your brain slips into a pre-recorded pattern. Scientists call this automaticity. It's the moment when a behavior becomes so deeply ingrained that it requires almost zero effort to activate. This is why habits are powerful and dangerous. Once a routine becomes automatic, your conscious brain barely participates. You're not choosing anymore, you're replaying. So the question becomes, how do you interrupt a pattern that fires before you even notice it? The answer is presence, not in a spiritual sense, but in a neurological one. When you bring conscious awareness into the moment, you activate the prefrontal cortex, the logical part of the brain responsible for decision-making. This region is like the brakes on a car. Habits are like the accelerator. If your brakes are weak, the habit wins. If your brakes get strong, the habit weakens. One of the fastest ways to strengthen this braking system is through micropauses. Every time you notice an urge rising, count down from 5 slowly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. During that short countdown, your brain shifts from autopilot to awareness. And in that awareness, you suddenly regain control long enough to choose a different action. And this brings us to something even more important: emotional cravings. Almost every bad habit is emotionally driven. The emotion comes first: loneliness, stress, anxiety, boredom, fatigue, and the habit becomes your brain's attempt to self-soothe. This is why removing a habit without addressing the emotion rarely works. If you take away the coping mechanism but not the feeling underneath it, the habit will come back or transform into a different bad habit. You might quit smoking, but start overeating. You might stop overeating, but start endlessly scrolling. Your brain isn't addicted to the habit itself. It's addicted to what the habit protects you from feeling. Behavioral economists call this choice architecture. You create an environment where the default behavior supports your goals instead of sabotaging them. Want to read more? Put a book on your pillow every night. Want to drink more water? Keep a bottle on your desk. Want to limit screen time? Make your phone grayscale and hide distracting apps. The easier you make the new habit, the faster your brain rewires. The beauty is that the environment works even when motivation fails. The real breakthrough comes when you realize your brain is not your enemy. It's simply following the pathways it built. When you change the pathway, you change the behavior. And the moment you change your behavior, you begin changing your life. If you've tried to quit before and failed, that wasn't failure. It was your brain doing exactly what it was programmed to do. Now you get to reprogram it. Now you know the loop. Now you know chemistry. Now you know the system. And once you understand the system, nothing can stop you from building the life you actually want. What if you could walk into any room and immediately connect with anyone? Not through magic or charisma alone, but through simple, scientifically proven actions that shape how people perceive you within seconds. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding the fundamental building blocks of human connection. Social psychology has uncovered specific, repeatable behaviors that dramatically increase likability and rapport. These are not abstract theories. They are practical, ethical tools you can use in your next conversation, meeting, or social encounter to build genuine affinity. Let's dive into the 5 psychological tricks that work on anyone, anywhere, every time. Our first trick is one of the most powerful and subtle tools in the social toolkit: mirroring body language. This is the unconscious mimicry of another person's posture, gestures, and expressions. When you subtly mirror someone, leaning in when they lean in, nodding when they nod, matching their speech pace, you are sending a primal, non-verbal signal that says, "I am like you, I am safe, we are in sync." Research shows this builds instant rapport and trust. It activates what neuroscientists call mirror neurons, the brain systems that help us understand and empathize with others. The key is subtlety. A direct imitation is creepy, but a gentle, delayed reflection of their open posture or hand gestures creates a powerful sense of alignment. In a negotiation, it can foster cooperation. On a date, it can create intimacy. In a job interview, it can make you feel like a natural fit. Start by simply paying attention. Notice if they speak with their hands, how they sit, their energy level. Then, allow your own body language to gently harmonize with theirs. You'll be amazed at how the dynamic shifts toward mutual comfort and understanding. The second trick is disarmingly simple yet profoundly effective: using someone's name repeatedly. There is no sweeter sound to a person than their own name. When you use it in conversation, you are personalizing the interaction in a powerful way. It commands attention, shows respect, and makes the individual feel recognized as a unique person, not just a face in the crowd. The psychology behind this, often called the personalization effect, ties directly to our need for social validation. Hearing our name triggers a mini reward response in the brain. But frequency and context matter. Use it naturally at the beginning and end of a conversation or when making a key point. "You know, Sarah, that's an excellent perspective," or "Thank you for your help today, David." Avoid overuse, as it can feel like a cheap sales tactic. The goal is to weave their name into the dialogue with genuine warmth. This single act can transform a transactional exchange into a memorable, positive connection, making you stand out as someone who is attentive and personable. Now, let's explore a trick that seems completely counterintuitive: the Ben Franklin effect. The founding father famously noted that he would win over a difficult colleague not by doing them a favor, but by asking them for a small favor, like borrowing a rare book. Psychology is rooted in cognitive dissonance. Our brains strive for consistency between our actions and our beliefs. If I do a favor for you, my mind rationalizes, "I must like this person, otherwise why would I help them?" This small act of investment makes the other person more inclined to like you and help you again in the future. The application is straightforward. Ask for a small, reasonable favor that requires minimal effort: an opinion on a project, a recommendation for a good coffee place, or to pass the salt. The request should be easy to grant and impossible to refuse. This isn't about exploitation, it's about creating a small bond of cooperation. By granting your request, they have made an investment in the relationship, and people naturally value what they invest in. It's a powerful way to turn neutrality or mild resistance into a willing alliance. The fourth trick is the cornerstone of all meaningful interaction: active listening and validation. This goes far beyond just hearing words. It's about fully concentrating, understanding, responding, and then remembering what is said. The trick lies in the validation component, demonstrating that you not only hear, but also acknowledge the feelings and perspective behind the words. Use phrases like, "It makes complete sense that you'd feel that way," or "I can see why that was so important to you." Employ techniques like paraphrasing. "So, what you're saying is," and asking open-ended questions that encourage deeper sharing. The psychology here taps into a profound human need to feel seen and understood. When people feel heard, they attribute likability and competence to the listener. They associate the positive feeling of being understood with your presence. In a world where everyone is waiting for their turn to speak, being the person who truly listens is a superpower. It disarms conflict, deepens bonds, and makes you the person others seek out and confide in. Our fifth trick involves careful and appropriate physicality, strategic touch. This is the most potent tool on the list and must be used with the highest degree of ethical caution and situational awareness. Research in what's known as compliance studies has shown that a light, brief touch on the shoulder or upper arm during an interaction can significantly increase positive feelings and agreement. This fleeting contact, often lasting less than a second, releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and creates a subconscious sense of connection and trust. In studies, waitstaff who lightly touched customers received larger tips. Colleagues were more likely to agree to requests. The rules are absolute. It must be extremely brief, culturally appropriate, context appropriate, and never intrusive. A half-second pat on the shoulder when thanking someone, or a light touch on the arm when sharing a laugh, can cement a positive feeling. Misapplied, it can be a catastrophic violation. Always err on the side of caution. When in doubt, don't. But when the context is right, a celebration, a heartfelt thank you, a moment of shared excitement, this micro-interaction can be the final ingredient that transforms a good impression into a great one. The psychology behind these tricks connects to the foundational principles of influence, most famously codified by Dr. Robert Cialdini. Mirroring and strategic touch relate to liking. We are persuaded by people we like and feel similar to. Using someone's name is a direct path to friendship and affiliation. The Ben Franklin effect is a masterclass in commitment and consistency. People align their beliefs with their actions. Active listening is a powerful engine for reciprocity. When you give someone the gift of true attention, they feel a subconscious pull to reciprocate the positive feeling toward you. Understanding these underlying principles, reciprocity, commitment and consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity, allows you to see these tricks not as isolated hacks, but as applications of a deeper understanding of human social behavior. Beyond these 5 core tricks, understanding the supporting psychological frameworks elevates them from simple tactics to a cohesive strategy for connection. A crucial underlying concept is nonverbal synchrony, which expands on mirroring. This isn't just about posture, it's about aligning with the rhythm of the conversation itself. Studies show that when people click, their physiological functions, like heart rate and breathing, can actually begin to synchronize. While you can't control this directly, you can foster it by matching the energy and tempo of the interaction. Is the person speaking quickly with excited gestures? Pick up your own pace. Are they calm and measured? Slow down your speech and movements. This dance of synchrony signals deep cognitive engagement and is a powerful subconscious driver of mutual liking and perceived understanding. Another high-level principle that amplifies these tricks is the concept of strategic self-disclosure. The principle of reciprocity dictates that when someone shares something personal with us, we feel a natural urge to reciprocate. You can ethically guide this by offering a small, appropriate piece of personal information first, a mild opinion, a shared experience, a light-hearted admission. This acts as a social gift that invites the other person to open up, creating a virtuous cycle of sharing that rapidly builds intimacy and trust. For example, after actively listening to a colleague's stressful week, you might say, "I completely understand that pressure. I had a project last month that kept me up at night figuring out the details." This balanced disclosure validates their experience and makes you more human and relatable, directly feeding the liking principle. Let's also address a common pitfall, the over-eagerness effect. In your enthusiasm to apply these techniques, there is a risk of coming across as performative or desperate for approval. The human brain is excellent at detecting incongruence. If you are mirroring someone's gestures, but your facial expression is blank, or you're using their name with a robotic frequency while your eyes dart around the room, you will create distrust, not rapport. The antidote is to focus on authentic curiosity. Genuine interest in another person will naturally guide you toward many of these behaviors. You'll lean in to hear them, mirroring. You'll remember their name because they matter, and you'll listen because you're truly engaged. The tricks are simply polished expressions of this innate curiosity. They work best when they are in service of a real desire to connect, not as a mechanical checklist. We must also consider the cultural and contextual lens. The effectiveness and appropriateness of these tactics vary widely. Strategic touch, for instance, can be warmly received in some cultures and considered a profound violation in others. Mirroring a superior's posture might be seen as disrespectful in a highly formal hierarchical setting. The use of first names requires careful judgment. In many professional and cultural contexts, using a title and surname until invited to do otherwise is the true path to respect and liking. The most sophisticated practitioners are cultural detectives. They observe first, adapt second, and apply third. They ask themselves, what are the norms here? What is the power dynamic? The universal principle is to respect local customs, showing that respect is in itself a powerful likability signal. To deepen the impact of active listening, incorporate the technique of labeling emotions. This advanced form of validation, drawn from negotiation psychology, involves identifying and calmly stating the emotion you perceive in the other person. For example, it seems like you're really passionate about this, or that sounds incredibly frustrating. By giving a name to the feeling, you demonstrate profound empathy. This can diffuse tension and make the other person feel profoundly understood on an emotional level, which is a direct shortcut to trust and liking. It shows you're listening not just to words, but to the human being behind them. Finally, we should discuss the long-term game of likability. These instant tricks are the spark, but sustaining positive relationships requires consistency and integrity. This is where Cialdini's principle of consistency works in your favor over time. If you consistently show up as a good listener, a respectful collaborator, and a genuine person, people will not only like you initially, but will also feel compelled to maintain that positive view of you. Their own self-narrative becomes, "I like and trust this person," and they will seek evidence to confirm that belief. Your ethical use of these tools at the outset builds a foundation for this lasting consistency. Conversely, if you use these techniques to create a false impression that later crumbles, the backlash will be severe. Authenticity, therefore, is not just ethical, it is strategic for enduring influence. Integrating these tricks into your daily life is a process of mindful practice. Begin with low-stakes interactions: the barista, a casual acquaintance, a new colleague. Practice active listening with a family member, focusing solely on understanding them without formulating your response. Experiment with subtly mirroring a friend's energy during a story. The goal is not perfection, but increased awareness. Over time, these behaviors will become integrated into your natural social repertoire. You'll find conversations flowing more smoothly, conflicts resolving with less friction, and new connections forming with greater ease. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about unlocking the most effective, connected, and persuasive version of yourself that already exists. By combining the science of behavior with the art of human warmth, you equip yourself with the most powerful tool there is: the ability to build genuine bridges, one positive interaction at a time. It is impossible to overstate the importance of ethical boundaries. These tools are meant for building rapport, fostering cooperation, and creating positive relationships in both personal and professional settings. They are not for manipulation, deception, or coercion. The litmus test is intention. Are you using this to create a genuine win-win connection, or to extract something at the other person's expense? Using these techniques unethically will eventually be perceived as inauthentic and will destroy trust. The goal is to become a more engaging, attentive, and effective communicator, not a puppet master. Let's walk through a practice scenario. Imagine you're meeting a new client, Alex. You start by using their name warmly upon introduction. As you sit, you notice Alex speaks deliberately and leans forward slightly. You subtly mirror this attentive posture. You employ active listening, asking about their core challenges and validating their concerns. "That sounds like a complex situation, Alex. I can understand the pressure that creates." Later, you employ the Ben Franklin effect. Alex, you have great insight into this market. Could I send you a brief draft later for your quick reaction? At the end of the positive meeting, as you shake hands, you might add a brief, light touch with your left hand to their arm in a gesture of thanks. Each step, applied ethically and naturally, builds a layered sense of rapport, respect, and mutual liking. Mastering these psychological tricks is about practice and awareness. Start by focusing on one per day. Tomorrow, consciously try to use people's names. The next day, practice active listening in every conversation. These are skills that compound. They will make you a better friend, partner, leader, and colleague. You are not tricking people into liking a false version of you. You are using proven social mechanics to ensure your genuine, best self is seen, heard, and appreciated. In the end, these tricks simply remove the static that can interfere with human connection, allowing your authentic likability to shine through, loud and clear. What if everything you think you know about getting a good night's sleep is designed to fail? What if the secret to effortless, deep, restorative rest isn't found in a pill, an expensive mattress, or another cup of coffee, but in a series of quiet, almost invisible habits woven into the fabric of daily life? In Japan, a country known for its long working hours, there exists a profound cultural wisdom around sleep that has nothing to do with trying harder to fall asleep, and everything to do with preparing your mind and body, hours in advance, to simply let go. This isn't about quick fixes. This is about learning a gentle, powerful language of rest, spoken through 7 specific rituals that can transform your nights and your days. Let's start by confronting the modern sleep paradox. We live in a world that screams optimization. We track our sleep cycles with expensive gadgets, chase perfect sleep scores, and then lie in bed, wide awake, stressed about not being asleep. We've turned rest into another performance metric, another thing to fail at. The Japanese approach in many ways is the elegant opposite. It's about subtraction, not addition. It's about creating conditions so conducive to sleep that your body and mind have no other logical choice but to surrender. The first and perhaps most powerful habit isn't something you do in bed. It's something you do long before dusk, the ritual of the after-work bath. For many in the West, a shower is a quick, functional wake-up call in the morning. But in Japan, the bath, or ofuro, is a sacred evening transition. It's not about getting clean. That's done separately before entering the pristine hot water. It's about a deliberate physical signal to your entire nervous system. As you sink into the deep heat, your core body temperature rises. This might seem counterintuitive. Don't we want to be cool to sleep? Here's the beautiful biological trick. Your body is a masterpiece of thermoregulation. After you emerge from that enveloping warmth, your body begins a coordinated cooling process to return to its baseline. That drop in core temperature is one of the strongest, most reliable physiological triggers for sleepiness that exists. You are not just washing off the day's grime. You are giving your internal clock a clear, unmistakable command. Begin the descent into night. You are literally warming up to cool down into slumber. Now, let's step out of the bath and into the home. Look around your living space in the evening. What do you see? Probably a barrage of bright blue-rich light from screens, overhead LEDs, and lamps. This is where the second habit creates a sanctuary of shadow. The Japanese concept of wa no kokoro, the spirit of harmony, extends to light. In the hours before bed, the goal is to eliminate harsh, direct light. Instead of a single, blinding ceiling light, the environment shifts to soft, indirect, and warm illumination. Think floor lamps, paper lanterns, and or low-wattage fixtures that cast gentle pools of light. This deliberate dimming does 2 critical things. First, it drastically reduces your exposure to blue light, which is the spectrum most effective at suppressing melatonin, your sleep hormone. Second, and just as importantly, it creates a psychological cue. The lowering of the lights is a visual whisper that the active part of the day is over. The bright, stimulating world is being put away. The dim, calm world of rest is being welcomed. Your eyes relax, your mind begins to decelerate, and your pineal gland gets the safe signal to start producing the chemical of the night. You are choreographing the sunset inside your own home. But what about the thoughts? You can have the perfect temperature drop and the perfect lighting, and still lie there with a mind racing like a hamster on a wheel. This is where the third habit, a form of mental hygiene, comes into play. In Japan, there is a deep-seated practice of putting things in order. You see it in the meticulous care of a tea ceremony, in the precise folding of clothes, in the clean lines of a tatami room. At night, this translates to a simple, profound act: tidying up. It's not about a deep clean. It's about the 5-minute ritual of returning cushions to their place, wiping down the kitchen counter, folding the throw blanket, placing shoes neatly at the entry. This serves as a kinetic meditation. As your hands put the physical space in order, your mind receives the symbolic message that the day's affairs are also being put in order. You are closing the open loops. You are creating a clean slate, both literally and figuratively. A cluttered environment subconsciously signals unfinished tasks, a to-do list hanging in the air. A ordered space signals completion, permission to stop. It is the physical act of drawing a line between the day's chaos and the night's peace. Now let's step onto the most important surface in this entire equation: the floor. The fourth habit is perhaps the most physically distinct: the use of a firm futon placed directly on the tatami mat floor. This is a world away from the plush, sinking pillow-top mattresses common in the West. The Japanese shikabuton is thin, firm, and grounded. Why does this matter? That firm, supportive surface promotes a supremely neutral spinal alignment. There's no sagging, no hammocking of the hips and shoulders. Your muscles, which often work overtime to stabilize you on a soft mattress, can truly relax. You are fully supported by the floor itself. But there's a deeper ritual here too. The futon is typically aired out daily, often hung over a balcony railing to bathe in the sun and fresh air. This isn't just about hygiene, it's about renewal. Every day, the bed is literally refreshed, stripped of the moisture and energy of the previous night. When you lay it down again in the evening, you are not climbing into yesterday's rest. You are climbing into a fresh, clean, dedicated space for tonight's rest. The act of laying it down becomes a small ceremony, marking the beginning of the sleep period. The boundary between sleep and wakefulness is physically constructed and deconstructed each day, reinforcing that this space has one sacred purpose. Of course, the body needs more than just a good surface. It needs to be met with understanding. Enter the fifth habit, a profound attentiveness to the evening meal. The Japanese principle of hara hachi bu, eating until you are 80% full, is a guiding star here, especially at dinner. A massive, heavy meal right before bed forces your digestive system into a demanding night shift, generating heat and activity when your body wants to shut down for repair. The traditional Japanese evening meal is often lighter, centered around grilled fish, steamed vegetables, miso soup, and rice. It's nourishing but not burdensome. Furthermore, there's a specific focus on sleep-supportive nutrients often present in these foods: magnesium from green leafy vegetables and seaweed, tryptophan from fish and soy, and complex carbohydrates from rice that can help ferry tryptophan to the brain. But beyond the biochemistry, there is the ritual of the meal itself. It's often a quiet, focused affair, a time to connect with family without the distraction of loud entertainment. You are not just feeding your body, you are allowing it to begin its wind-down process undisturbed by a digestive riot. You are choosing foods that partner with sleep, not fight against it. With the body cared for, we must now address the most elusive element, the mind's final surrender. The sixth habit is the practice of a short, mindful reflection or journaling, a cousin to the traditional kanzo, simplicity, and koko, austerity, aesthetics. This isn't a detailed diary of every event. It's more like a mental rinse. It could be writing down 3 small things that went well, not to analyze them, but simply to acknowledge them. It could be noting 1 thing you look forward to tomorrow, to plant a seed of positive anticipation. Or it could be a simple list of loose thoughts or minor worries you're putting on the shelf until morning. Here's the quiet magic. The moment ink hits paper, those vague, swirling worries stop floating and start sitting still. You are taking the formless anxiety in your head and giving it a container, a boundary, a home outside your body. You are saying, "I see you, I acknowledge you, and now I am setting you aside." That tiny pause between thought and writing becomes a switch, out of rumination, into release. It closes the cognitive tabs that are running in the background of your mind, the mental notifications that would otherwise ping you awake at 2 a.m. Over time, this ritual becomes a powerful cue in itself. Your brain learns, when the pen moves, the day ends. It creates a definitive mental endpoint for the day's processing. You are effectively performing a shutdown sequence for your brain, moving from active processing to passive, receptive stillness, like dimming the lights inside your own mind, one gentle notch at a time. Finally, we arrive at the 7th habit, which governs the very first moments of your day and, in doing so, sets the stage for the next night. This is the habit of asameshi mai, of before-breakfast discipline, but applied to light. The moment you wake up, the instruction is simple: get bright light into your eyes, open the curtains wide, step onto the balcony, take a brief morning walk. This massive dose of morning sunlight, particularly within the first hour of waking, is the most powerful regulator of your circadian rhythm. It acts as a master reset button for your internal clock, telling your suprachiasmatic nucleus, the body's pacemaker, exactly what time it is. By firmly anchoring your wake-up time with strong light, you are effectively setting a timer for melatonin release roughly 14 to 16 hours later. You are giving your body the clearest possible schedule to follow. A consistent, light-defined wake-up time creates a stable rhythm, making the evening wind-down not a struggle, but a natural, inevitable tide going out. So, what is the grand tapestry these 7 threads weave? It's a lifestyle of rhythmic harmony, where sleep isn't an isolated event you desperately try to command at 11 p.m. It is the graceful culmination of a day lived with an awareness of night. It is a series of gentle transitions, from heat to cool, from bright to dim, from chaos to order, from activity to stillness. The Japanese don't chase rest. They prepare for it. They build it quietly into everything they do. And in a world that glorifies constant motion, perhaps the most revolutionary act is learning, once again, how to stop. Train your taste buds early. In Japan, the journey to a healthy relationship with food starts young, not through rules or restrictions, but through experience. Children don't just eat lunch at school, they live it. Meals are eaten together, quietly, respectfully, and every single one is designed by a nutritionist. It's not an afterthought. It's part of education. These aren't mass-produced trays of mystery meat and chocolate milk. These are freshly prepared plates with rice, vegetables, fish, soup, a balance of flavors and nutrients served with purpose. And here's what's interesting. That daily exposure rewires the brain. It sets a baseline for what normal tastes like. It teaches the tongue to enjoy bitterness, savor umami, recognize subtle sweetness. So years later, when those kids grow up, they don't crave ultra-processed snacks. Their brain isn't wired to chase a sugar high. It's wired to appreciate balance. Compare that with a typical lunchroom in the US or many Western countries. Processed food dominates. Frozen pizza, fries, chicken nuggets, ketchup, chocolate milk, vending machines just steps away. It's not a lunch, it's a training session for your future cravings. And those cravings are hard to unlearn, because taste is a habit. It's not just a preference, it's a pattern built through repetition. But here's the good news. Taste can be retrained at any age. The key is consistency. Start small. Replace one processed item a week with something whole and fresh. Swap that afternoon bag of chips for a small bowl of miso soup or some sliced cucumbers with sea salt. Each time you make that swap, the brain adjusts, and so do your cravings. Over time, junk food stops hitting the same way, and real food begins to feel satisfying again. The change doesn't have to be drastic, just gradual and deliberate. Little habits stack up, and slowly, you build a new default. Healthy convenience. Walk into a convenience store in Japan, and what greets you isn't a wall of sugary sodas or bags of chips. Instead, it's perfectly portioned rice balls, bento boxes with grilled salmon, soft-boiled eggs, fresh salads, and miso soup. Real food. Fast, accessible, and affordable. Convenience doesn't have to mean junk. In Japan, convenience is built around health. It's not an accident, it's by design. Even the vending machines offer canned green tea, small portions of cold coffee, and light snacks. Compare that to the Western default: large bags of chips, king-size candy bars, microwave burritos loaded with preservatives. The environment nudges behavior more than willpower ever could. This is the quiet genius of environmental design. It's not about discipline, it's about making the healthy choice the easiest one. People don't always choose what's best. They choose what's nearby, what's quick, what's normal. So when fresh, nutritious food is the default, people naturally gravitate toward it. And it's everywhere. At the train station, on the street corner, in the office. That accessibility removes friction. You don't have to think twice, you don't have to cook a whole meal, and you definitely don't need a gym membership to eat better. It's not about a grand transformation, it's about removing the barriers. Small changes to your environment can make a huge impact. Stock your fridge with pre-cut veggies, keep fruit within reach, swap your desk drawer snacks for something simple but real. When the good stuff is just as easy to grab, the bad stuff becomes a little less tempting. It's not about willpower, it's about what's around you. Portion control without pain. In Japan, meals aren't served as giant overflowing plates. They're served in small, separate dishes. A little rice, a small bowl of soup, a piece of grilled fish, a few vegetables. It might seem modest, but here's the trick. The variety makes it feel abundant. The colors, the textures, the flavors. They engage the brain more than a massive single-plate meal ever could. The culture embraces the idea of moderation, not as a restriction, but as a practice of awareness. There's even a traditional saying, hara hachi bu, which means eat until you're 80% full, not stuffed, not uncomfortable, just satisfied. That single idea quietly rewires how people respond to food. Eating slowly with intention gives the body time to catch up. It takes about 20 minutes for the brain to register fullness. And by the time that message arrives, most Western-style meals are already long gone. In Japanese dining, smaller plates make a difference. It's called the unit bias, the psychological tendency to feel satisfied once a full unit is consumed, regardless of its actual size. So, a smaller bowl of rice feels like enough because the bowl is finished. There's no need to overeat when the environment is subtly signaling satisfaction. And there's another hidden advantage. Less room for mindless extras. No supersized sodas, no baskets of endless fries, no refills of sugary drinks. Just measured, thoughtful portions that honor the meal, not stretch the stomach. Try this at home. Serve meals on smaller plates. Use small bowls instead of large ones. Don't eat out of a package. Create portions you can finish without going past fullness. Your body listens, but only if you give it the space and time to speak. Sugar awareness. Here's something surprising. The average Japanese person consumes about half the sugar of the average American. And that's not because they're avoiding sweets altogether. It's because their culture has a different relationship with sweetness. Walk into a Japanese cafe or bakery, and you'll find beautifully crafted desserts. Miniature cakes, dainty mochi, delicate confections, all elegantly presented, all much smaller than their Western counterparts. Instead of giant slices piled high with frosting, you get a small portion that focuses on experience over quantity. One bite to satisfy the senses, not 5 to fill the stomach. Even their drinks follow this rhythm. A soda can in Japan is just 150 milliliters, less than half the size of a standard American can. And sugary drinks aren't an everyday habit. Green tea, barley tea, and black coffee are far more common, and they come unsweetened. There's also a cultural preference for subtlety. Instead of overwhelming sweetness, Japanese flavors lean on balance. You'll find desserts with matcha's bitterness or red bean paste that's gently sweet, not cloying. Sweetness isn't meant to dominate, it's meant to complement, and that changes how people consume it. Sweets become occasional experiences, not daily coping mechanisms. They're enjoyed slowly, often with tea and rarely in isolation. There's a whole ritual around it. A seasonal mochi in spring, a chestnut dessert in autumn. It's connected to time, place, and mood. Contrast that with the mindless snacking culture elsewhere, grabbing a candy bar at the gas station, a donut with coffee, or pouring sugary cereal into a bowl without thinking. It's not just more sugar, it's less intention. Japanese food packaging also plays a role. Portions are smaller. Calories are listed clearly, and there's often only 1 or 2 servings per pack, not 8 disguised as one. That transparency trains the brain differently. It encourages awareness. Then there's advertising. While Western media glamorizes indulgence, treat yourself. You deserve this. Extra caramel. Japanese media tends to highlight lightness, purity, seasonal freshness. It subtly shapes desire. And dessert isn't framed as a reward for suffering through a diet. It's part of life, just not the center of it. That difference in mindset creates room for self-regulation without guilt or obsession. Why does this matter? Because sugar isn't just about taste. It's about how the brain learns to expect reward. High sugar diets change the palate. They dull sensitivity. The more sugar someone consumes, the more they need to feel satisfied. But the opposite is also true. Studies show that when sugar intake is reduced, sensitivity returns. People begin tasting sweetness more intensely and needing less of it to feel the same pleasure. That's the science behind Japan's quiet restraint. It's not about denial, it's about recalibration. Try dialing it back slowly. Swap 1 sugary drink a day for unsweetened tea. Pick desserts you can savor, not devour. Pay attention to how the sweetness actually feels. With time, the cravings fade, the tongue resets, and what used to feel like a treat starts to feel like too much. Structured eating. In Japan, most people eat 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, at roughly the same times. It sounds simple, but this kind of rhythm does more than just keep things organized. It creates harmony between behavior and biology. When meals follow a consistent schedule, the body adapts. Hunger hormones regulate, energy levels stabilize, and blood sugar doesn't crash unexpectedly. That means fewer impulsive snacks, fewer late-night cravings, and less emotional eating. It's like setting your internal clock to run smoothly, instead of in chaos. Breakfast often comes before 9 a.m. Lunch is usually around noon or 1 p.m. Dinner happens by 8 p.m. Nothing extreme, just predictable. And that predictability reduces stress. Because when the body knows food is coming, it doesn't panic, it doesn't push cravings into overdrive or trigger survival mode. Contrast that with the typical grab-and-go eating style, skipping breakfast, snacking mid-morning, having a late lunch, and picking at something again at 10 p.m. The body is never sure when the next meal will come, so it responds with unpredictability. It holds on to fat, it spikes hunger, it makes overeating easier and balance harder. Structured eating doesn't have to be rigid, it just has to be consistent. Set a routine that works and stick with it as much as possible. Plan meals instead of winging them. Give your body the rhythm it's looking for, and you'll find that hunger stops being a problem to fight. It becomes a signal you understand. Move naturally. In Japan, movement isn't something that gets squeezed into a schedule. It's not something people make time for. It just happens. Naturally, consistently, and without pressure. People walk to the train station. They take stairs without thinking. They bike to work, stand on subways, carry groceries, and stroll through neighborhoods. Movement is built into everyday life, not isolated to a 60-minute gym session. And that's exactly why it works. It's called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT for short. It refers to the calories burned from everyday movements: cleaning, walking, standing, fidgeting. It may seem small, but these micro movements add up. In fact, NEAT can contribute more to daily calorie burn than traditional exercise, especially for people who aren't sedentary. The beauty of this approach is that it removes guilt. You don't need a perfect workout routine. You don't need to punish yourself on a treadmill. You just need to stay in motion. And when the environment supports that, when cities are walkable, stairs are common, public transport requires steps, movement becomes the norm. Even inside homes, there's more motion. Sitting on the floor requires standing up. Using traditional kitchens means more bending, reaching, standing. The whole setup favors small acts of motion over hours of sitting. To bring this into daily life, start thinking in steps. Literally. Walk when you can. Stand when you have the chance. Choose stairs instead of elevators. It doesn't have to be intense. It just has to be consistent. Over time, the difference is massive, not because of one big workout, but because movement became a lifestyle, not a chore. Slow eating. In Japan, meals aren't rushed, they're savored. And a big reason for that is the use of chopsticks. Eating with chopsticks naturally slows things down. You can't shovel food into your mouth with them. You have to pause, pick, place, chew. It turns every bite into a small act of attention. That slower pace matters more than most people realize. It takes the brain about 20 minutes to register that the stomach is full. Eat too fast, and it's easy to blow past that signal and end up feeling stuffed, or worse, sluggish. Eat slowly, and you give the body time to respond. This isn't about counting chews or setting a timer. It's about letting meals be meals, not multitasking sessions. In Japan, there's a cultural respect for food that discourages eating while walking, driving, or scrolling on a phone. The focus stays on the plate, and that naturally leads to slower, more mindful eating. When you slow down, several things happen. You enjoy the food more. You notice textures and flavors. You stop when you're satisfied, not when the plate is empty. It's a simple shift, but a powerful one. To put this into practice, try setting your utensils down between bites. Take a breath, look at your plate, chew fully, drink a sip of tea. These small pauses create space, and in that space, fullness speaks up. And when fullness has room to be heard, overeating stops being the default. The goal isn't to eat less, it's to eat with awareness. And with that awareness comes satisfaction, not just physically, but mentally too. Respect the meal. In Japan, eating isn't something you do while distracted. It's not done on the go, behind the wheel, or during a Zoom call. Meals are a moment, a quiet pause, a simple ritual. There's no scrolling through phones, no background TV, just people, food, and presence. This respect for food changes the entire experience. It signals to the body that eating matters, that it deserves attention. And when meals are treated like moments of care, people naturally slow down. They chew more, they taste more, and they stop when they're satisfied, not just when the plate is empty. Even the way meals are presented speaks to this mindfulness. Small dishes arranged thoughtfully. Fresh ingredients showcased with intention. There's an unspoken rule that eating deserves your full awareness, and that awareness, in turn, fosters control. When the brain is focused on the meal, it hears hunger and fullness cues more clearly. That's why distraction-free eating isn't just polite, it's practical. It keeps you tuned in, and when you're tuned in, your body becomes a better guide than any calorie counter. The Japanese mindset. These 9 habits aren't hacks, they're not tricks or quick fixes. They're a mindset, a way of living that prioritizes rhythm, balance, and respect over extremes. They don't rely on grinding willpower, they're built into the flow of everyday life. That's the quiet power of Japan's approach to staying slim. It's not about fighting the body, it's about designing a lifestyle that works with it. No starvation, no stress, just better defaults. When food is fresh, movement is natural, and meals are mindful, staying slim doesn't require struggle. It becomes the byproduct of a life lived in alignment with biology, with culture, with intention. If any of these habits resonated, start with one. Just one. Maybe it's slowing down while you eat. Maybe it's adding one fresh food to your day. Maybe it's building a mealtime routine. Small shifts become new rhythms, and those rhythms change everything. If this deep dive into Japanese habits opened up a new way of thinking about health, there's a lot more where that came from. Hit subscribe, leave a comment with the habit you want to try first, and share this with someone who's tired of the gym diet cycle. This isn't about chasing slim, it's about living well.